Hey y'all, welcome back to Gadfly, the podcast about third-party candidates, fringe politics, and just generally weird electoral history. I know I messed it up. I'm not doing it again. This has not been normal times. By the way, I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Uda O'Leary.
Una, why is Kanye running for president? Oh, my brain is in so much pain right now. I have to pull up one tweet while we're talking about this too, just because. All right. On one hand, do we talk about this seriously, or do we acknowledge that this is probably some sort of like spontaneous publicity stunt of some sort?
It can't be both.
I mean, I think there's probably something in the middle, but it's, it's just such a weird ass fucking thing. So, all right, let's start as if, it is 100% serious. What are you thinking about this?
Here's my wild prediction here. My bet is that Trump drops out like September because the numbers are so bad for him, and because he's narcissist sociopath, walks away, because then it's his choice and not the fact that he's a fucking loser. And then Kanye becomes like a Republican write-in candidate. Like, all of these crazed Republicans now have to vote for a black man, and then we get Joe Biden.
That's a lot more optimistic than I was thinking. I get that. Like, my only comment aside from that is, even to be a write-in candidate, you still have to file in all these states to be a write-in candidate. Otherwise, it doesn't get counted.
And see, that's where I start to think this isn't serious, because I think he'll do everything except the paperwork. I think he'll do some stump speeches, maybe write a song, but yeah, the actual filing, pedestrian. Yeah,
there's a lot of weirdness going on with this potential run. I mean, for one, as a fellow by the name of Hunter Schwartz, who is the founder of I believe it's an online zine called Yellow, made a really good point that as of right now, Kanye has missed the chance to run as an independent in Indiana, Maine, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, and Texas. So that's 102 electoral votes already off the map right now that he cannot get. Now, granted, out of those states, I don't really know which ones he would have done really well in. So, I mean, New York is probably a pretty big loss, but yeah. North Carolina, he might have been able to get a lot, but I'm really not sure aside from there.
He does have name recognition.
He does. But some states celebrity kind of works better than others, and it kind of depends on his brand of celebrity. So I'm not really sure, which is going to go over best. So there is that. The other is Hunter also pointed out that the only candidate for president named Kanye West in the FEC database for 2020 at the moment is a Green Party candidate named Kanye D's Nuts West.
Shut up.
I don't think it is the D's Nuts, because he's probably busy with college right now, or at least he has been. But the candidate hadn't raised any money. He's not running. I think it was just a goof that someone filed, spent $50 and forced the FEC to print D's Nuts again.
Yep.
So yeah, but the thing that makes me think that he might not have to worry about filing is if it's simplified to the point that all he has to do is just sign some shit, and then other people work on getting him onto the ballot. And the reason I'm kind of thinking that is there's currently I want to say they're called the Unity Party, or a version of Unity, that is being run by a former professor out of Evergreen State University. And Evergreen State University makes Oberlin look like the RNC. It is the most liberal, probably, college, I'd say, in America. And this particular professor gained national notoriety in 2017 when he refused to not come into work on White People Don't Come to Campus Day, which is something that Evergreen State had been doing for years as a form of protest. And he was just like, no, I work here, I'm showing up. And the students are like, you really shouldn't. He was like, well, fuck you. I'm employed here, I'm gonna show up. And it's just like, for one, dude, you know where you work, right? And yeah, and so it blew up in his face. Gigantic protests happened all over the campus. He eventually resigned, and he kind of became this Fox News celebrity of the year for a while, and he seemed to embrace it. But yeah, he's trying very hard to run I'm just going to call it an alt-centrist party. But yeah, he and his brother are trying to run it and get very mad whenever people have critical questions about it. But one of his last tweets was him trying to get Kanye's attention to get him on the ballot. So if someone like that can essentially do the heavy work, get Kanye to file to the FEC, and then get everyone else in all these other states to get him on the ballot, that's a maybe. But aside from that, I just see him doing that write-in vote that you were talking about, is that people are going to think he's a candidate, write him in, it will not count. All of those votes will get thrown out.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
And I think it's probably the worst part of me thinks he's doing it as a favor to Donald Trump. And the fact that Elon Musk has already endorsed Kanye, I'm seeing this as a way for really, really rich people to be able to support Donald Trump without saying that they do. That's my sinister bullshit.
That's less fun. I mean,
yeah.
The matter is,
funny is not about fun. It is about severe introspection and pessimism.
The truth of the matter is, I genuinely believe this is just going to be the murder hornets, but for summer. Like, what happened to them? It's like, yeah, hey, remember when for 2.5 days Kanye West was running for president?
My God.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like our big July what the fuck. Like, it's a little easier than, police killing people again.
Yeah, but it's still only the beginning of July, Dusty.
God damn. It's fine. The murder hornets will show up. They'll save us all. They'll be like, we're like killer whales. We're not that bad. Buzz, buzz, buzz.
We're not an invasive species.
Oh, man. Well, you ready to feel a little bit better?
Oh, my God. Do I get to feel a little bit better?
A tiny maybe. Because, yeah, it's time for us to return to the Libertarian Presidential Convention of 2020.
Be still, my heart.
Woo! Porcupines is our animal. It's online.
Why?
I mean, it's accurate. I'll take it.
It absolutely is.
Ah, man. So yeah, it's time to talk about the final 3 candidates who made it onto the 4th and final ballot. And finishing 3rd is a candidate that I was really, really hopeful was going to win. Mainly because I wanted to dedicate a whole episode to him one day so I'd be able to keep up with the same sort of style that we had for the Constitution Party episode.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't win. And so one day I really do want to do a full episode on him. So today I'm mainly going to do a quick recap prior to this year and focus on his 2020 campaign, which he called his first ever serious run for president. And the candidate we're going to be talking for is a man by the name of Vermin Supreme.
I'm sorry, what? Vermin.
Vermin Supreme. Una, are you ready to fall in love?
Hand me the rose, Dusty.
All right. Born in 1961 in Rockport, Massachusetts, Vermin Love Supreme would grow up near Boston. Vermin was not his born name, but it is what he originally changed it to in the early 1990s. When asked by John Stossel in the 2020 Libertarian Convention debate why he chose the name for himself, Vermin said, "My name is Vermin Supreme. I'm a friendly fascist, a tyrant you can trust, and should let me run your life because I do know what is best for you." That was indeed the satirical tweak that gave the context to my name. Yes, my name is Vermin Supreme, and yes, I am a meme.
I feel like I got slapped by a Dr. Seuss book. What just happened?
You just got introduced to Vermin Love Supreme.
Vermin Love Supreme, the man who's a meme. He's a trustworthy, friendly fascist. What?
Come join the team.
No! All of that could have been his campaign profile or eHarmony.
So more concisely, Vermin stated in 2004, "All politicians are, in fact, vermin. I am the Vermin Supreme, therefore I am the most qualified candidate in this race." So most people would recognize Vermin mainly via his trademark campaign regalia of a large black boot he wears as a hat. And, as they say in Hot Fuzz, a great big bushy beard.
Oh, absolutely not. Nope.
I mean, I'm more impressed that he's figured out a way to keep a boot on his head while walking around and have it stay put.
He looks like a guy who managed to be kicked out of a Ren fair.
He probably has. I'm not sure about that, but he might have been. So Vermin began running for local office in New Hampshire in 1987, but is most well known for his multiple runs for president that began in 2004. During that time, he's run as both a Republican and Democrat, sometimes both in the same year, and usually will pick one or the other depending on which party wasn't the incumbent. Past campaign promises have included making brushing your teeth federally required, guaranteeing every U.S. citizen gets a free pony, and ensuring the nation has an ironclad plan in the event of, quote, inevitable zombie invasion.
I'm not going to lie, he has me with the last one. The first two, though, I feel like those aren't great libertarian standpoints, although this was this was in the 80s.
This is like before he officially began running as a libertarian, when he was running as like either a Democrat or a Republican, promising a pony in every house.
Yeah, way more sensible than most of the libertarian platforms.
Agreed, yeah. Yeah, I don't think you could be a libertarian and give everyone a pony. That's
huge government.
You are choosing favorites as to which animal companies are getting the favorable behavior.
Jeez, the government contracts necessitated to stud and grow ponies for so many millions.
Now, there are two stories that I want to add in about vermin that I'm really too excited to talk about now instead of waiting until later, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell these two.
Yes.
First is how Vermin Supreme was banned from the St. Anselm lesser-known candidates debate. So we've mentioned this debate in the past, but the general idea is that St. Anselm College of New Hampshire holds a debate every presidential election cycle. It is incredibly easy to get onto the ballot in New Hampshire, so you always end up with around 15 to 30 extra candidates who are running along with the mainstream Democrats and Republicans. St. Anselm, being the awesome folks they are, invite as many of these lesser-known candidates to come and debate on television. In 2011, Vermin was invited to debate along with another fellow by the name of Randall Terry. Now, do you remember that name from a previous episode?
Not at all.
So during the Alan Keyes episode, I believe the third one, Alan Keyes was arrested on Notre Dame for protesting abortion.
Right.
The man he was with was a guy by the name of Randall Terry. So Randall was also, if you've ever been on a college campus and you saw a truck driving around with a bunch of aborted baby pieces on it and like a quarter, all of that, if you've ever seen one of that, that's Randall Terry being an asshole.
Yes, being a god botherer.
So Terry, who had been a Republican up until 2011, switched his party allegiance to Democrat, mainly so he could directly run against Barack Obama, which still doesn't make sense knowing that Terry was still severely conservative, anti-choice, and blatantly homophobic. But here he was on the stage sitting right next to Vermin. So in Vermin's 30-second closing statement of the debate, he pulled out a little speaker, barely a Bluetooth, and then it just plays the chicken dance for 30 seconds. And he began singing a song about how his name was Vermin, and you should vote for him, but only if you want to. The song was beautifully unprepared, even though it was such a short time. But after the music ended, he thanked everyone for coming out and said, "Oh, one more thing. Jesus told me to make Randall Terry gay." Vermin then stood up, pulled a fistful of glitter from his yellow zebra-striped coat pocket, and began showering it all over Randall. He rained glitter all over him for a full 30 seconds. And then he casually tossed more glitter at Terry after the final candidate spoke.
Oh my God.
Like, Vermin literally sat down in his chair, just kept going into his pockets, and just like casually tossing glitter onto Randall.
So many thoughts. First of all, wow, this man is an agent of chaos.
Yeah.
Like, hardcore. Second, like, this is beautiful, but I also don't like that my heart does have an ounce of pity towards Randall Terry, because glitter is such a pain in the ass to deal with.
I mean, so is Randall Terry. So.
You know what? You're right. You're right.
Not more pity for the people at St. Anselm College who had to clean up that glitter.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the correct thought.
The janitorial staff at St. Anselm College.
They are not getting paid enough, period.
No, they are not. And so after that, he was officially banned from the St. Anselm lesser-known candidates debate.
Shame on them.
Look, I get it. You can't let him get away with it. The people, there are some really decent people who end up at those debates. This last year, I mean, there was a neo-Nazi they could have invited. There were a number of really terrible people running. And if you let Vermin Supreme, if you give a lesser-known candidate a glitter bomb, someone's going to try to top that.
You're right.
So I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
And then Randall became gay, right?
Yes. Last I heard, Randall was on a what's the word? A dick buffet. That's a good segue for the second story, which comes from what was one of my favorite news sites for a while, Cracked.com.
Oh, I remember Cracked.com.
Back in the good days before they got bought out and ruined.
So ruined.
So in 2016, Cleveland was hosting the GOP convention, and not sure if you remember, people were not very happy that it would be the site where Donald Trump officially became the Republican nominee for president. A lot of folks predicted that a riot was surely going to unfold outside the convention, very reminiscent of the 1968 Chicago Democratic Convention. But all in all, not much really happened. Really, the biggest event that people still remember today was Eric Andre trolling Alex Jones into a red-faced fury. But Robert Evans, who's mostly known for the Behind the Bastards podcast and Worst Year Ever and a slew of others, was writing for Cracked at the time and was on the ground in Cleveland. And he decided to write a whole article on how he viewed Vermin Supreme as the ultimate peacemaker of the potentially turbulent event. Evans would say, quote, "A lot of folks deserve credit for keeping the RNC protests peaceful. But in my experience covering all 4 days, one man stood above the rest, Vermin Supreme. You see, Vermin has a long history of involvement in protests, and during that time has found a way to fuse his own sense of absurdist humor with his desire for peace to create the perfect diffuser of tension. One example Evans gives involves 2 columns of bike cops that surrounded both sides of the protesters during a march. Now, typically, if cops are going to have a line of bikes on one side and a line of bikes on other, they're about to corral you. So as this started to happen, Vermin ran ahead and yelled at the cops, "Do it just like we did in rehearsal, okay, people? Try not to bump into each other." He spent the next 2 minutes, quote, critiquing the officers' bikemanship, pointing out whenever 2 cycles bumped into each other, and tried his best to start a competition between the 2 rows of bike cops for who could perform better.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
Vermin would later say to Robert Evans, "When it gets intense, people start to get scared. And when they get scared, people start to panic. So by diffusing the tension with humor, it allows people to relax and refocus about what we're doing here on the streets." There was another moment where the Westboro Baptist Church showed up. And of course, a fight was about to start. And so Vermin just immediately ran into it and noticed that Shelley Phelps, who was currently running the church after her asshole father died, wasn't there. They had sent someone else to lead. And Vermin started yelling about how this person wasn't Shelley and was a false prophet, and they were really there to worship Shelley Phelps.
I love it.
I told you, he's such a strange man, but he has the kindest heart.
I'm becoming more and more convinced based on his look, the fact that he's an agent of chaos, and his skill in groups. I think he's a wizard.
Look, if there's anyone amongst us who's a boot wizard, it's the
greatest of wizards, the boot wizard.
Vermin has run in 4 presidential election cycles so far. But what makes 2020 so unique for him is this is the first time that he has ever run a self-described serious campaign. Despite running for both major parties, Vermin describes himself as a lifelong libertarian and notes that out of all the parties, the libertarians come the closest to his own personal ideals. Now, this does fall a bit outside of what he said in 2008 when he described libertarians as people who, quote, are just about abolishing the government and letting shit fall where it may. He would state later that he was wrong for saying that and spoke to his own ignorance of the party for making that statement. I can understand why he said it, though.
Yeah.
But what is Vermin's real ideology? That would be social anarchism.
You don't say!
That's right, Vermin Supreme is an anarchist. The general gist is that within an anarchist system, there would be no existing state, and you would be able to see individual freedom as interrelated with mutual aid. So while a lot of libertarianism places a stronger focus on the self, this branch of anarchism notes that one person cannot attain true freedom so long as the community doesn't come together to help everyone. Essentially, what good is your absolute freedom if everyone around you is starving or hurting? Will you always be able to maintain your highest level of personal freedom when everyone around you struggles? And at what point would those struggles bring about a change to government or society? As for Vermin's platform, despite being labeled as a platform for a ponier America and a zombie-powered future, it's actually just an edited for length copy-paste of the 2018 Libertarian platform. So everything we went over the last episode, that's exactly what Vermin's running on.
He's literally just, he's phoning it in?
I get why he's doing it, but he also notes that he's doing it. He's like, I took this from the Libertarian platform. I agree with all of it. This is what I'm running on.
I guess, but like, how supreme can you really be if you're not throwing a little Vermin flavor on it?
I don't know. That's a great point. He did, during debates and when he's talking, he definitely brings the absurdist humor. But yeah, I think he just wanted to be very serious for his platform and to be like, look, if you're nominating me for president, I want you to know that I'm actually going to have a platform.
You know what? I get it because he's done this, 4 times now?
At least.
Okay. At a certain point, you got to wonder, like, well, I'm not president yet, and I've been doing the same thing these past 3 times. You got to change.
His campaign shop, though, is fucking awesome. Thanks to a snazzy as fuck campaign logo, a lot of the more boring campaign gear is stuff that I'm probably actually going to get myself. He also sells a t-shirt that says fuck alt-right, a pin with a libertarian porcupine wearing a boot on his head.
Oh, that's great. That's great
really
marketing.
Cute. And a card game called The Thin Blue Line, where you win by being the highest promoted cop, and it just so happens the quickest way to do that is by being as corrupt as possible. Just like real life.
Oh my God.
Like you could choose what kind of cop you want to be, and like you could rack up citations on Vice Squad, you could be a detective and just like take people's shit.
I'm gonna buy that like tonight.
It's pretty great.
That is amazing. This is going to turn into what happened to Monopoly, where it was started as a way to show people how terrible capitalism is, and instead it's just a way
shows
for
you how terrible family is.
Yes.
Also, side note, if you are going to be buying stuff from that website, I'd recommend against a coffee mug because there's one in the mail coming to you right now.
Shut up! Oh my god! It's not even my birthday.
I know. This is like the first campaign swag. I'm like, I can send this. This is fine. Una's not going to be mad about a book Alan Keyes wrote. So while Vermin hasn't been able to get much in the way of votes in his past campaigns, this would all turn around for him in 2020. John Stossel even noted that Vermin was responsible for bringing in a huge influx of younger voters to the party, who were excited and determined to make him the official party nominee. Unlike previous campaigns, Vermin would get a multitude of endorsements, including at least 30 Libertarian Party officials and 2 former state congressmen from New Hampshire, Caleb Dyer and Brandon Finney. Any question as to whether Vermin was a serious candidate would be quashed fairly heavily on January 11th, 2020, during the New Hampshire Libertarian primary. During the first primary of the electoral year, Vermin would end up winning with 17.3% of the vote. Granted, it was only 26 votes, but a win's a win. And on March 3rd, the first of the Super Tuesdays, Vermin would once again overperform, finishing 3rd in California, 3rd in North Carolina, and outright win in Massachusetts. But, quick note though, that 3rd place in North Carolina is actually ignoring who really won. The often feared, none of the above.
Oh no.
Now, the Libertarian presidential primaries really mean fuck all, especially since, as we stated previously, only 12 states hold them before the convention, and Nebraska didn't even hold theirs until after the convention. This was not only showing that Vermin had voters, but enough genuine support to be a legitimate candidate for the party. Vermin would eventually name podcaster Spike Cohen as his running mate. Spike describes himself as an anarchist as well, and really seemed to thoroughly enjoy running on a semi-absurdist candidacy while Vermin wasn't allowed to. While Vermin had to focus on more semi-serious politics, Spike promised as vice president he would fully legalize recreational plutonium, offer free cheesy bread with the purchase of any federal explosives permit, place a Waffle House on every corner of America, and go, quote, back in time to kill baby Woodrow Wilson, which ultimately makes killing baby Hitler unnecessary, but we're still going to do that too. On the Vermin Supreme shop, you can also buy a t-shirt that's just Spike's face. It would make no sense to anyone who knows you.
Hold on to it, throw it into a time capsule.
Yeah. So at the convention, Vermin did really fucking well. He never once finished above 3rd place in the voting, but he was able to hold on until the last ballot. On the final ballot, Vermin received 20.1% of the vote. Enough for 3rd, but not enough to win. While his younger fans were crestfallen in the YouTube chat openly stating that they now have to find someone else to vote for and that they're leaving the Libertarian Party and how could you all do this? Vermin was just all smiles and kindness. He congratulated the nominee, showering homemade confetti from above his webcam and letting it drop onto his laptop keyboard, only pausing to pick up the pieces again and keep the confetti shower going the whole time, vowing 100% support to the party's nominee.
That's so pure.
Our world isn't even barely good enough for Vermin Love Supreme.
No.
Now I ask you to go back and look at his picture again. Do you look at it the same way?
No.
This sweet, goofy grandpa who found a boot that fit.
He's just living his best life.
He really is. Just everything about him is genuine and wonderful, and I was honestly sad that he didn't win the nomination. I'm not shocked. I don't know if the party would have survived it if he got nominated, because there are some hardcore fucking libertarians who probably would have jumped ship, at least for this election, saying that he's making a mockery of everything, but who fucking knows? Would
they jump ship to a different third? Like what?
My best guess would probably be the Life and Liberty Party, which we've brought them up previously. They're the group that split from the Constitution Party, which if you haven't checked our Twitter, there's a wonderful story from politics1.com talking about how the Constitution Party is just crumbling from underneath Don Blankenship like a slurry pit built over an abandoned mine. But yeah, so the Life and Liberty Party kind of view themselves as in between the Constitution Party and the Libertarian Party, and I could kind of see people ending up there if they had the option of voting for him. So now that we've had our fun, it's time to get to the runner-up. And this is a man who, by all accounts, looked like he was going to be a shoo-in for the nomination. An attorney by the name of Jacob Hornberger. Now off the bat, I have to make a correction from the last episode. Because in the last episode, I referred to John Mons as the only person of color running for the nomination this year. But I failed to read Jacob's background correctly and didn't include him. So apologies there, correction made. So Jacob was born in 1950 in Laredo, Texas, to a German-American father and a Mexican-American mother. He would get his undergrad degree in economics from the Virginia Military Institute. He would be valedictorian of his class and be commissioned second lieutenant of the U.S. Army Reserves in 1972. The very next year, Jacob would both begin law school at the University of Texas and begin an 8-year tenure in the U.S. Army Reserves. Honestly, doing anything extra with grad school, let alone law school, is astounding as fuck to me. And that's coming from a dude who studied something I assume to be less stressful than pretty much any other grad degree out there. Immediately after graduating from Texas, Jacob began practicing law in his hometown as a trial attorney. He'd eventually moved to Dallas to practice law before becoming the program director of the Foundation for Economic Education. He would eventually leave that job after 2 years to found his own organization, the Future of Freedom Foundation. So the FFF, like Jacob's previous place of work, is a libertarian think tank. Now, I know we've brought up think tanks a lot in the past, but I don't think we've ever really talked about what they are. So a think tank is a place where political nerds go to research and make policy and get paid to do it. Depending on what the foundation believes, they create ideas based on that and advocate for those ideas via lobbying and networking with like-minded politicians. The FFF is pretty standard in regards to other think tanks. They have a monthly journal, a daily email blast. They even meet up to have coffee in DC for people to casually discuss the free market. But then, if you start to delve into their shop, the Freedom Store, you start finding that Jacob has a real obsession with the Kennedy assassination.
Oh, no.
So much so that he's written 3 books about it.
No!
The general gist being that Kennedy was killed by the government and Lyndon Johnson probably was in on it too.
No!
I'm not going to pretend like I even understand a quarter of the JFK assassination conspiracy theories out there, so I'm just going to leave all that out there with as little snark as I can. But it's not a good look when in 2019 you're writing books about how Lyndon Johnson probably had JFK assassinated. So by 1996, Hornberger, which is a last name I'm never going to be able to say seriously, it feels like some shitty comedy writer, and I'm like, what's the nerd's name? Like, Dwight Hornberger. Anyway, by 96, Hornberger had become an extremely respected name within the party. He had served 3 terms on the National Party's Platform Committee, won the party's Thomas Paine Award for Outstanding Communication of Libertarian Principles, and had been a keynote speaker for the 1996 convention. But it would be shortly after this convention that Jacob would run headfirst into one of the most beloved names of the party's history, investment advisor Harry Browne. Now, Harry Browne was a figure so beloved by the party that when he ran for the presidential nomination for the party in 1996, he won it on the first ballot with 69% of the vote. Nice.
It's the sexiest thing you'd ever done.
Look, this podcast is explicit. Throw in one.
If we're going to have to put that E up there, we're going to make it worth it.
This podcast is not for fucking children, but you should listen.
Yeah, we warned you.
If you want to write an essay that'll give you detention, listen to our podcast. So after that election, Harry claims that Jacob sent him a letter of praise for how he had run his campaign. This is something that Hornberger himself admits to doing. But a little bit after that, Jacob began a campaign against Browne, claiming he wasn't a libertarian, just Republican light, which, from what I've read, is the worst thing you could call a libertarian. Jacob used his Future of Freedom Foundation to lash out at Browne, deriding Harry's plan to replace the federal income tax with a, here we are, flat sales tax, and claimed that Harry Browne was more interested in compromising libertarian ideals if it gave him a better chance of winning. Party members would note that while those claims were potentially valid, Jacob never leveled them against his own party idol, Ron Paul, who we'll talk about eventually.
Yeah, Ron Paul's a rhino.
Yeah, oh my god! My god, I feel like if this were 1998, you'd be able to sell so many t-shirts to a very specific group of people.
And I would gladly take their money.
So this feud would come to a tipping point in 1999, when Jacob would file to run for the Libertarian presidential nomination against Harry Browne. That is until a couple of months later, when Jacob would drop out. And that is until Jacob re-entered the race 1 week before the convention. So Jacob would be honored with a speaking slot for the 2000 convention, but his campaign wouldn't make it past the first ballot, and once again, Harry Browne would win with 56% of the vote. Jacob would end up finishing 3rd behind New Hampshire State Congressman Don Gorman, which is kind of what happens when you drop out of a race, re-enter, not spend any money on campaigning, not have any staff, and just show the fuck up. Now, what happened next, as we like to say around this podcast, depends on who you ask. But it comes from an idea that the Browne campaign had been floating. And that is, since the Libertarian Party is against all government regulations, why do they follow any of them? And as a form of protest, the Browne campaign openly debated the idea of ignoring all campaign finance laws. This kicked off an inter-party feud fueled by Jacob's multiple attempts to prove that Harry Browne was actually corrupt and buying his way into power within the party by ignoring those FEC rules. Now, eventually, the Harry Browne campaign would decide against doing that because they didn't exactly want to go to jail, I assume, or fight a cause that they knew they were going to lose. In 2000, Jacob went as far as to mail the FEC and ask whether Browne had filed the required financial disclosure statements and what would happen if a candidate just kind of decided not to play by the rules that the FEC had set. According to Browne, Jacob began circulating that letter to the FEC to libertarians, to which Browne said, Hornberger somehow thought that this would endear him to people who don't believe the Federal Election Commission should even exist. It reminded me of a cat I once had who used to drag in half-dead lizards, birds, and snakes into the house, drop them at my feet, and expect me to praise him.
Burn.
Yeah, not wrong. So the year after losing the election in 2000, Jacob would claim that the FEC had threatened to indict Brown for violating campaign finance laws. But Brown claims his campaign never heard from the FEC at all. Brown would finish his indictment of Hornberger by stating, "Hornberger is a troubled soul, a deeply disturbed individual. I can't presume to know what his inner problems are, but I do feel sorry for anyone who follows such a path of self-destruction." Whether true or not, Jacob Hornberger's initial run for president didn't succeed and caused a heavy rift within the party. Jacob would quietly let his party membership lapse, and he became an independent. But hey, why let that drama stop you when you could just run for Senate in a couple of years?
Yeah.
In 2002, Jacob would enter the Senate race in Virginia against incumbent John Warner, who had held the seat since 1979. The Democrats wouldn't even field a candidate, leaving Jacob's only other competition to be a Lyndon LaRouche cult member, Nancy Spanis.
Oh, no.
We're going to talk about LaRouche one day. The smallest breakdown is he is a political figure who created a cult based on his political philosophy and anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and that, yeah.
Yeah. You can't have one without the other with this guy. So Jacob would end up running as an independent, just like Spanis did, but his platform was 100% libertarian. In the end, the Senate race wouldn't go great. Jacob would finish last, but with a respectable 7% of the vote, but still losing to a Lyndon LaRouche acolyte.
Ugh.
Which leads us to 2020. It's been plenty of time for folks to forget the fight that he had with Harry Brown, and a new day was dawning for Jacob. So what does Jacob believe in? It's probably best to run through all the things that Jacob would get rid of immediately.
Oh, this.
This is going to take a bit of time.
Oh, boy.
He would get rid of the Federal Reserve, would replace our current form of finance by letting people use anything for money that someone else would be willing to accept. Anything done at the Pentagon, anything related to the military-industrial complex. He would end the CIA, the NSA, income tax, which Jacob blames as one of the major reasons why young people are today having such a difficult time getting started in life. We can pause on that.
The income tax?
Yeah, didn't you know that? Una, you and I are paying too much income tax, and it's the reason that we're constantly struggling and in a state of consistent anxiety.
Yeah, my income tax doesn't answer to the name Sally Mae. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, look, the folks at Nelnet who work there, they are better individuals than they need to be. They're the people who are working the phone lines and the chats there, decent, good people.
I wish my problem were income tax, frankly.
I know, like, oh my God, if income tax was my biggest problem and the thing keeping me from getting higher in life, I think I'd have to look at my finances and start cutting down on the number of lifts I'm taking.
Yeah.
He would get rid of all federally funded welfare programs, arguing that all Americans were perfectly fine before the New Deal programs. Let's pause.
Oh, boy.
Because, I mean, the Great Depression, literally the New Deal saved the fucking nation.
We still have Social Security for a good reason.
Yeah.
So that grandma and grandma do not go broke in old age. And frankly, it needs updating, and the updating does not mean privatizing.
Oh man, you're gonna love Jacob's ideas on how to fix it though.
Oh.
He would get rid of the Patriot Act, all FISA courts, the TSA, the Department of Homeland Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the Department of Health and Human Services, the FDA, the CDC, laws for compulsory school attendance, all taxes that fund schools, all regulation of business, all tariffs, any trade restrictions or wars, all sanctions, and would end the embargoes on Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. And there's still 3 more things to talk about that we can expand on.
Oh my God.
Jacob Hornberger is of the zealous libertarian bent. He is the one who he will go in there, he will end all of these programs on day 1, and if you tell him, no, we gotta get Congress's approval to do that, he will get mad.
He will not like it.
No, he will show up on the job. It'll be like, what do you mean I can't stop this? It'll be like, well, Jacob, there are laws. Yeah. You should know this. You're a fucking attorney.
Oh, God. What does he do for his clients?
I don't know if he's had any clients for a long time. So first, let's talk about one of the 3 major things he would get rid of that I found interesting. One is completely get rid of minimum wage, which Jacob calls an attack on the poor. And Jacob's belief is that people should be able to work for as much money as they want. If people want to work for as little as they want, that's up to them. If you're fine being paid $1.50 an hour to do the work, you should be allowed to do that. Yeah,
that's not how any of this works, like at all.
I mean, I hate to keep using, Don Blankenship as an example, but just look at the, turn of the century coal towns. I mean, people kind of didn't have a choice of how much they had to work for.
No one here is looking to actually work for what they're paid because that's not how it works.
So that's his idea. But he also blames the minimum wage for the reason that unemployment of Black teenagers was as high as 30 to 40%. Now, previously, unemployment of this demographic hadn't been as high as 30% since June of 2016. But the most recent time that this happened was when Jacob was running for the nomination in May. And so what was happening in May?
This May?
This May.
This
during the fucking COVID. When, guess what? Every job a teenager can get, working at a movie theater, working at a restaurant, service industry jobs. Yeah, you're gonna lose your fucking job for a bit.
Like, you could also argue that it's been hard for teenagers to get those early employment gigs since the recession, that it never really picked up because everyone above them still needs those jobs.
Exactly. But I mean, this also doesn't even take into account the history of redlining.
Oh my God.
Opportunity deserts, and essentially what Jacob's saying here, general history of racism in the country. And this, essentially, the accidental and potentially purposeful moral of what Jacob is saying here is we should be allowed to pay Black people less than a living wage. Like, a criminally less than a living wage.
Oh God.
This is what happens when you try to act like you're not racist. You say racist shit. So in line with other libertarians, Jacob also wants to get rid of Social Security, but his take on getting rid of it is, well, a lot. Quote, "One of the worst consequences of socialism is the mindset of dependency and helplessness that it produces in welfare recipients, similar to what heroin does to a drug addict. Seniors would do fine without this socialist program. They just need to recapture the sense of self-reliance, self-esteem, and can-do that socialism suppresses."
First, we have not had socialism, so just stop there. Just stop it.
Yep.
We haven't.
Yeah.
Secondly, like, all you have to do is point out, and it's like, what he means by socialism is your Medicare, and then you've lost all of Florida. Forget
100%,
it.
yeah.
You're just never getting voted in.
Yeah. Yeah, and he does follow this up by saying if there are seniors who don't have the ability to pull themselves up by their, I don't know, what do seniors have instead of bootstraps?
Slippers.
Yeah, if you can't pull yourself up by your slippers, then, it's up to your family to be able to support you or the community or everyone around you. And this runs right headlong into that optimistic libertarian ideal that someone's clearly going to help you out. But he also notes during the debate, John Stossel had asked him, like, well, what if people don't help? And he's like, well, that in a perfect libertarian society, they have the absolute right to do that. And that's a perfect use of their freedoms if they decide not to. But clearly there's going to be other charities there to help people. So finally, in the list of things Jacob wants to completely get rid of is the EPA, or as he calls it, the most tyrannical agency in U.S. history.
My God, it is so toothless right now.
I definitely feel like Jacob's one of those dudes who in the early 2000s forwarded an email about how a farmer's not allowed to use his land because there's an endangered bug on a property.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He had some kind of Texas rancher friend, and there was an endangered bird that nests somewhere outside of Midland.
So Jacob believes that the safety of the environment should be privatized. He proves this by stating that privately owned property is always better maintained than publicly owned property. So obviously, all environmental stewardship should be run privately. I have 2 points on this. First, has Jacob Hornberger ever been to Lincoln Park, especially around the botanical gardens? Because that place is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I welcome him to walk around any privately owned property he wants in the city. Some will be really good. Some of them won't be.
You can say a lawn with a mirror in a bathtub is well maintained, but it doesn't look good.
Yeah. And secondly, it's much easier to say keep a creek on your property nice and clean than it is, Lake Erie.
Yeah, maybe you picked up the trash around the creek, but guess what? The water's still toxic because 2 miles upriver is a mill.
Exactly. You need everyone on every property of all the rivers that flow into Lake Erie to keep their waterways clean, let alone all the businesses along the coast. Because when they don't, then they have a habit of not being taken well care of. And for the example I'm going to use, let's just take a look at the Cuyahoga River in Ohio.
The one that caught on fire?
You jumped ahead.
Sorry.
It's fine. In the 20th century, the Cuyahoga River in Ohio was considered to be one of the most polluted rivers in the world. To give an idea of how gross the river was, I will refer to a 1968 Kent State Symposium on the river. The surface was covered with brown oily film observed upstream as far as the southerly plant effluent. In addition, large quantities of black heavy oil floating in slicks, sometimes several inches thick, are observed frequently. Debris and trash are commonly caught up in these slicks, forming an unsightly floating mess. Sludge accumulates at the bottom. Animal life does not exist. And if you're familiar with the Cuyahoga River, it's probably because you know that it's a river that has caught on fire multiple times.
Yeah, more than once.
13 times.
Holy shit, I didn't know it was that many times.
Between 1868 and 1969.
1868?
Yep.
For 100 years?
Yep. In 1952, there was a fire that happened that caused millions of dollars worth of damages to piers and boats and the like. And 1969, if you're imagining the river catching on fire, that's the one you're imagining. And it's mainly because it made national news. A grand jury would end up finding that 12 different companies along the river had led to it becoming bereft of life and very fucking flammable. It ended up leading to a whirlwind of government reforms headed up by the newly formed Environmental Protection Agency. While the river still isn't what one would call perfectly clean, 44 species of fish have returned to the river, and usually when it hasn't rained in a while, you can actually swim in it without worrying. And in 2019, the OEPA even said that if you caught a fish from the river, it was completely safe to eat. These are all things that would never have happened if it wasn't for local to federal government stepping in and demanding businesses clean things the fuck up. But hey, if you have Jacob in charge, he has a simple solution. People should just sue the companies into compliance. Because the court system, as we know, is completely fair for everyone. Since that's also frustrating, let's end on something delightfully weird.
Yay!
Did you know that there's an ADHD conspiracy theory?
Tell me more. I just started my testing.
So according to Jacob, ADHD is something that is diagnosed to middle and high schoolers who have too much of a thirst to learn and ask too many questions. In turn, they are given Ritalin and Adderall to numb their curiosity and make them compliant to the education system and the country.
That's it. I'm an indigo child.
Oh my god, I forgot about those. Anyway, so despite the minor civil war that Jacob had caused within the party 2 decades ago, it kind of looked like he was going to be the unquestioned favorite to win. The Torch of Liberty, the primary polling organization for the Libertarian race, had Hornberger as the overall favorite to win going as far back as December of 2019. Not to mention that out of the 12 primary races, Jacob would end up winning 7 of them. It should be noted, though, that he was only running against none of the above in Missouri, and was the only name on the New York ballot. But if you just looked at early polling and the result of the primaries, it would have seemed like the race was completely in the bag for Jacob. During the nominating round, Jacob would end up winning 24.8% of the vote. But it's a lead he only held by 25 votes. And to my complete shock, once the top 6 candidates were set, Jacob finished second place in all the remaining rounds. With each newly removed nominee, Jacob would only gain a small chunk of newer voters, while the eventual winner's lead began to surge. During the convention, Jacob Hornberger's minimum support was 24.8%. By the end, his ceiling would be 27.8.
Yikes.
And it's true, you can rebuild a burned bridge, but charred wood makes it real hard to make that new bridge long enough to work.
Damn.
And so Jacob Hornberger would lose for the 2nd time in his libertarian career.
Oh.
Before we talk about the official Libertarian nominee for president, I do want to talk about my favorite of all the write-in votes. Because as I described in the last episode, you could write in anyone during the rounds. They just be on the official ballot. And in the 4th and final round, there was one write-in vote for the king of all monsters, Godzilla.
The literal king of all monsters.
I hope there might be a whole history of recorded write-in votes for the fictional kaiju, but this appears to be the first time a vote for Godzilla has been officially tallied anywhere. And for that I say thank you, libertarians. I love about half of what you stand for, and this makes it half plus 1.
Aww.
So the thing that made me the most excited about this year's Libertarian nominee is this is a year that the party will end up hitting a humongous milestone, because the winner of the nomination is Jo Jorgensen, the first woman to ever head the Libertarian ticket.
Oh my God, are they evolving?
I was going to say, the look on your face is genuine shock.
Yes, it is. Does she look good in a fedora?
She could pull it off, I think. She has a really good sense of style, I'll say that.
All right.
Yeah, so I know when you think of the Libertarian Party, it's really easy to think of just like a pack of web developers with very strong opinions.
Oh my God, that's exactly what I think.
And most of them did not get past the nomination round. There were at least a couple. Which makes this is why I'm so happy that Vermin Supreme is in 3rd. And so, our winner, Jo Jorgensen. Jo was born in 1957 in Libertyville, Illinois, and would grow up in the far Chicago suburb of Grayslake. In 1979, she would receive her undergrad degree in psychology from Baylor University, and the next year she'd get her master's in administration from Southern Methodist. During her master's year, she placed her first ever vote for a Libertarian, voting for presidential nominee Ed Clark, and has been a devoted Libertarian ever since. After getting her master's degree, Jo would relocate to Greenville, South Carolina to work as a marketing rep for IBM, and South Carolina would end up becoming her permanent place of residency. By 1983, she'd left IBM and started her own software sales company with a specific focus on accounting. The timeline here is a bit muddy, but at some point Jo would leave her company to raise her 2 children, and after they were grown, she became a partner, then eventual president and sole owner of Digitech, a software duplication company. Since I'm not really sure of the years that all happened, I'm just going to throw in her first ever run for political office right about here. In 1992, Jo would run as the Libertarian nominee for the U.S. Congress in South Carolina's 4th District. There isn't a ton out there about how her campaign went, but Jo would often quote praise from an article in the Greenville News following the debate between 3 candidates, in which they called Jorgensen a rose between 2 thorns. But despite this praise, Jo would finish in last and would get in at about 2.2% of the vote. It seems that during that run, though, Jo caught the attention of a lot of the bigwigs within the party, including the biggest of wigs, Harry Browne. So much so that when Browne won the presidential nomination in 1996, he personally selected Jo to be his running mate. She would win with 92.7% of the vote, crushing none of the above.
Yeah, suck it, none of the above.
Yeah, none of the above, he can kick rocks. To a rousing chant of "Just say Joe! Just say Joe!"
Beautiful.
Jorgensen made her way to the stage and opened with what might be one of my favorite first sentences of a speech ever. Quote, "It is wonderful to be in a party that has the consciousness to vote none of the above against me. I will remember that power corrupts. Thank you."
That's adorable.
And then she just fucking crushes it in her opening paragraph. I'm going to send you a link to the speech. I'm going to put it in. You'll know when the good part ends, because I think it's like minute 2.
Republican politicians give us the political equivalent of 1-900 phone sex. They tell us that we're special. They ask us what we really want and tell us that they want it too. Then they start breathing heavy and getting excited by what we want. They tell us their fantasy for us. They tease us and tempt us. They arouse our passions. They tell us how much they want it and how good it's going to be. When we hang up from the 1-900 Republican tax cut fantasy line, we realize 3 things. They cost us a lot of money. The real thing is a lot more satisfying, and they're never going to come over.
She's a natural.
Yeah, she's really great.
Oh my gosh.
That's one of the best opening paragraphs of an acceptance speech I've probably heard in a while.
I feel like a number of Republican male politicians saw this clip and then tried to like project her onto Michelle Bachmann or Sarah Palin and like, you know,
I could see that.
Yeah, it's like I just need you to be Jo Jorgensen.
So despite the party's enormous love for the Brown-Jorgensen ticket, 1996 wouldn't be a very good year to run for president. The Libertarians would finish 5th behind Ross Perot and Ralph Nader's Green Party run, only netting 0.5% of the vote. After her vice presidential run, Jo would put her political career on hold for some time and focus more on her work in psychology. In 2002, she'd get her PhD in industrial and organizational psychology from Clemson, and would also end up starting her own business consulting company as well. Once again, I don't know how you do both of these things in the same year. It blows my goddamn mind.
Nope.
She would eventually be offered an adjunct professor position at Clemson to teach psychology. Her Rate My Professor page also paints a picture of a tough but fair professor. Her worst reviews come from people complaining that you can't text on your phone during class, that she doesn't have online notes, and that Jo says attendance isn't required, but you still need to go to class to learn everything. Those complaints aside, she sounds like a damn solid professor of intro, social, and abnormal psychology. Jo would file for the 2020 Libertarian nomination on November 2nd, 2019. I would run as strictly to the Libertarian platform as possible, even going as far to say during the convention debate that her platform is in exact accordance to the official party line. She does have a couple small differences, though. In regards to environment, Jo would replace coal and oil power plants with nuclear power, but she would also allow people the option of using off-the-grid solar power if they wanted.
Thank you.
As for Social Security, she recognizes that you can't just take it away because people have kind of gotten used to it. And what she would want to do is replace it with the Cato Institute's 6.2% solution. In order to get rid of Social Security, people are given the option to put 6.2% of their payroll taxes into a private investment account. And if you do that, then you don't have to put money into Social Security. And the idea is it would slowly phase it out to the point that everyone's just putting their money into a private retirement account. So compared to many of the other platforms, Joe is just very straight to the point on most of her issues, but also not nearly as fire and brimstone as a lot of other more hardline libertarians would like. Most notably, Jacob Hornberger. Now, how Jacob lost after gaining so much momentum in the primaries isn't super clear, especially when you look at polling and see that the highest watermark Joe had before in the Torch of Liberty polls was around 3%. But by May 19th, Opavote ran a poll of the delegates who are planning to attend the convention and found that Joe's support was much higher than previous polling had shown. Not only that, but the poll had been done in the style of ranked choice voting. Jacob held the lead of candidates up until the final 6 remained, but after that, Joe would become the heads-on favorite. In fact, when it came down to just the two of them, Joe was polling at 60%. So what was it that turned Jacob Hornberger from the presumptive candidate to the runner-up? Well, his previous history with the party probably didn't help. But a lot more of it could be placed probably on his performance during the final debate and the fact that he just sounded like a whiny fucking asshole for most of it. And his main tactic seemed to be going after Jo Jorgensen and claiming that she hadn't answered questions in previous debates.
That's it?
Well, they were for very important issues, Una. So the thing that we had kind of discussed previously is that Jacob is a zealot when it comes to these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
But Joe was a lot more of a realist, recognizing that, yeah, you have to work with Congress, you have to work with people, you can't just cut stuff out. Joe's much more of a realist, which Jacob just does not have the patience for whatsoever. So Jacob would have to wait until about halfway through the debate before he found an opening for his attack. And he would find this moment by challenging that in a previous debate, Joe had refused to answer the question of what, to her, is a perfect form of government, and accusing her of being a supporter of the welfare state, since she would not immediately get rid of Social Security. Joe responded that, yeah, if I had a magic wand, she would absolutely end every single program that Jacob would end on day one. She, however, noted that people are on programs now, and you need to wean them off of it so you can avoid economic disaster. Also, the president can't just decide to end the majority of things that Jacob wants to end, so you have to work with Congress and agree to change laws. And overall, it was a bit of a draw for an argument. But the problem with arguing about what someone said in a previous debate is that if people haven't seen it, then they don't really know what the context is. Plus, it gives your competition an opportunity to make the argument for their platform and gives them not just more time, but center stage. And if they answer the question, it makes you look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, Jacob.
And the thing is, Jacob would do it again, and very indignantly, by accusing Joe of dodging the question at a previous debate as to whether or not sex work should be legalized, claiming that she flat out said, "I refuse to answer that question." Once again, Joe was given center stage to answer that question, to which she said, "Like some people have said, prostitution is basically capitalism and sex. Which of those two are you against? I'm for both."
Oh, damn, girl.
John Stossel would then rebut to Jacob that clearly, since she had a stance and answered it clearly, that his claims weren't true. Jacob then went about the whiniest of whiny answers, arguing that his point wasn't that Joe didn't have a stance, just that she didn't say her stance at the previous debate.
You went from wino to not answering with the words that I wanted in a previous debate. Jacob, you've fallen so far.
I think he's always been there. It's just an optical illusion that he was higher.
You were in the gutter and you tripped.
All right, so that's not to say that everything Joe said during the debate was pure perfection. Because when she was asked the COVID question, well, first she noted that quarantines were a direct assault on personal and economic liberty.
Oh, Joe.
Yeah, you're about to get real sad. I'm very sorry. She followed this up by noting that currently the FDA has to prove efficacy and safety. So does the product work, and is it safe to use? It used to be before 1962 that the FDA only had to prove safety, that a product could be used, even if the claims it made didn't work or were exaggerated. Joe believes that for this particular COVID time, an executive order should have been placed stating that only safety should be observed in regards to medications and COVID testing. So her belief in this is that the public won't use bad tests and the good tests will thrive. So the big problem with this is that people aren't directly buying their own COVID tests. It's up to their doctors, their local health organizations to make that decision. And if all the good COVID tests are sold out, then is a doctor going to choose to not buy any tests? Or will a more capitalistic medical professional take whatever is available and cash in while people are panicking?
Mm-hmm.
Also, they're not going to know that they're bad until months later.
Yep.
Also, Joe doesn't really mention why those FDA regulations were changed in 1962.
Go on, Dusty, because I think I know, but I won't jump the gun.
I'm really excited. Yeah, if you do, this is going to be like gold stars, because I had no clue. So the Kefauver-Harris amendments were initially started in 1959 when Tennessee Senator Estes Kefauver began hearings over whether drug pricing was too high and whether or not marketing was boasting outrageous and inaccurate claims. The amendments had initially been planned to improve truth in labeling and marketing of drugs, but took on a whole new level of importance with the advent of a drug called thalidomide. The drug was invented in 1953 as a sedative, But in 1957, a very strong marketing campaign pushed the drug as an over-the-counter option for curing morning sickness.
Yes! Yes!
The product seemed to work, but had the horrific side effect of causing the children of mothers who took the drug to be born with shortened, missing, or flipper-like arms and legs. The amendments were rushed through Congress, and President Kennedy signed them into law in 1962. Thalidomide is actually still used in medicine today, primarily as a treatment for plasma cell cancer, and in some cases, leprosy. So yeah, with that kind of history behind the FDA's change in regulations, it makes perfect sense as to why it wouldn't be in the public interest to allow any Yahoo to make a fucking COVID test.
Yeah.
Especially for a disease that can be asymptomatic and takes weeks to manifest. So on the final ballot, Jo Jorgensen would finish with 51.1% of the vote and become the first ever woman to head the Libertarian Party ticket.
Yay!
The next day, the party would select her vice president, and after 3 rounds, the party chose Spike Cohen.
Hey, let's get that t-shirt.
I kind of feel like that was a compromise with the Vermin Supreme folks to kind of keep them on board.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, Spike also just seems like a decent dude, like a decent anarchist with a decent sense of humor.
If we get the t-shirts, I feel like it'll be like the Simpsons episode where Homer picks up his Spiro Agnew shirt.
Yes. In the days since, the feelings of the party have been mixed. Jo's been asked how her message falls in line with the comedic anarchist running by her side, and her stating that yes, Spike ran a joke campaign, and yes, he is an anarchist, but he's my running mate, so he supports my platform. Less than pleased, libertarian activist and William Weld 2020 campaign team member John Vaught with Bohm would tell New York Magazine, in the face of twin 2020 perils of Donald Trump and the other party's base-pushing democratic socialism, Libertarian Convention delegates nominated a ticket of some lady and some guy who podcasts from his basement 2020. And then again, this comment seems to stem from the fact that he's really bitter that Justin Amash didn't run.
Yeah.
It really kind of speaks to an issue that for the past 2 election cycles, the Libertarians have run prominent politicians, which hasn't made a chunk of the party very happy, because they kind of view it as the Libertarian Party has been used as a retirement home for Republicans who have dropped out. And so there's a lot of people who are just kind of tired of being used. But despite that, the big fear is that now that they've selected Jo Jorgensen, that the party is doomed to not get anywhere near the 4 million votes they got in 2016. But this feels far too negative for me, especially for a party that runs on so much idealism. And I think it's best to end on a quote from VP nominee Spike Cohen. The cheesy bread and the Waffle House, that's all fun satire to bring people in. And that's when you hit them with the real message. In 2016, the fainted cloud of a 2-governor ticket brought in 4 million votes. And now it's up to libertarians to take those 4 million people with the message and keep them on board. And this was going to be my ending sentence, until a tweet I just read.
My God.
From an article from The Guardian, Libertarian 2020 candidate appears on podcast tied to the boogaloo movement.
Oh, no.
Yeah, apparently Jo was on a podcast called On the Roads to Liberty podcast, where she answered questions from a bunch of boogaloo types. So I don't think she believes in the boogaloo movement. I think she was offered a chance to interview. She takes it because the word liberty is in the podcast, hopes for the best. And oh no. A guy who goes by the name Squid asks Jorgensen's views on the boogaloo movement as a whole, to which Jorgensen replies, "Oh, can you please explain that to me again?" And appears not to know about the movement, despite recent arrests of alleged violent extremists. But the guy explains the purpose of the movement as basically liberty and justice for all, which Jorgensen replies, "Well, I'm definitely for liberty and justice for all." So she went on a podcast, no clue what the boogaloo movement is, and this is not a good look. You have to research this shit.
Yeah.
Oh God, asked if the boogaloo movement were anti-government extremists, Jorgensen wrote, "The media tend to lump together peaceful protesters and those who advocate violence and paint the entire group as being violent. The boogaloo movement is highly decentralized and comprises both those who are aligned with the principle of non-aggression and some who run counter to it." God damn it, Jo. All right. Fuck, marry, polite, ask Lee to leave.
Thank you. Yes, I've been waiting for
Polite,
this.
ask Lee to leave. Politely ask to leave.
Yes. Okay. So I would politely ask Jacob to leave, obviously.
Yeah.
I would fuck Jo Jorgensen and marry Berman Love Supreme.
Well, we gotta work on our schedules then for all of them, because I have the exact same answer.
Yeah, it's the only right answer.
Yeah, I don't want to hang out with Jacob. You know, Vermin seems like he'd be a wonderful husband.
Exactly. He's a partner for life.
Yeah, he's a decent soul. Well, yeah, so that's the Libertarian Party this year in 2020. Next time we're going to be moving to another historical subject. I'm going to make it a happy one. It is going to be ideally one of minimal frustration and good protagonists.
Summer fun time.
Yeah, one can hope. So until later times, I mean, in the words of Herman Supreme, vote for Kanye if you want to.
But also take this seriously.
Yeah, please take this very seriously. This isn't a year to vote for a joke.
No.
If Herman Supreme is taking life seriously, then we all need to as well.
That's the message to end on.
Well, I guess we'll see you next time on Gadfly.
Yay!
Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin and is edited by the awesome folks of Rem Alternus Productions. Our theme song is Sophomore Makeout by Silent Partner, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.